The beauty of the contributory pension scheme, the CPS, is that the money contributed into the retirement savings account is invested and the interest that accrues to it is redeposited into the retirement savings account, making it possible for account holders to have more money when they retire. Hello and welcome to Pension Matters, the pension awareness program, where we teach you all you need to know about the contributory pension scheme. My name is Princess Trabi Ibrahim and I'm so glad to have you join us. On today's program, we'll be looking at investment of pension contribution. For details of this and more, stay with us as the program will continue shortly. Welcome back. The program is Pension Matters, and it is now time for us to tell you what is trailing in the pension industry with Adanze Okorocha. Ada, is over to you.
Thank you, Princess. Viewers, it's good to have you join me on Pension Trail today. My name is Adanze Okorocha. First on this segment, pension asset growth excites pension managers. The chairman, Pension Fund Operators Association of Nigeria, PENOP, Mr. Ibrahim Delonge, has expressed their excitement at the rate which the pension market is growing. Mr. Ilonge, at a media briefing in Lagos, said the scheme will hit a record of 30 million subscribers and pension assets of 20 trillion in the next 8 years. Secondly, Nigeria's main contributors still outside the contributory pension scheme. The initiative by the National Pension Commission, PENCOM, to launch the micro-pension scheme will move the nation's gross domestic product contributors into the contributory pension scheme. According to the Executive Director, Business Development and Investment, Premium Pension Limited, Mr. Kayode Akande, said the bulk of individuals driving the nation's GDP are yet to be captured in the contributory pension scheme. He noted that capturing the informal sector workers into the scheme will boost the pension fund and provide better future for the self-employed. Lastly, on Pension Trail today, membership of contributory pension scheme increases. The contributory pension scheme has recorded about 7.3 million members in the third quarter of the year 2016, representing 15.87% increase compared to 6.3 million in the corresponding year of 2014. Commenting on this, the Executive Secretary of the Pension Fund Operators Association of Nigeria, PENOP, Susan Orani, said the contributory pension scheme is really working as people are getting more aware of the scheme. She added that the efforts of PENCOM in enforcing compliance is bearing fruit and more will be achieved once the micro-pension scheme kicks off. Viewers, that's the much we can take on Pension Trail today. Over to Princess.
Thank you, Adanze, for telling us what has been trailing in the pension industry this week. Viewers, the program is Pension Matters and it is now time for pension education.
Today, pension education focuses on next of kin accessing a deceased retirement benefits. Next of kin refers to a person's closest living relative, often entitled to inherit the personal property, and in some cases, the real property of the deceased if that person dies intestate. The next of kin relationship is important in determining inheritance rights if a person dies without a will and has no spouse and/or children. In cases where if and no legal heir can be identified, the deceased's estates becomes state property. Under the contributory pension scheme, if an employee dies before his or her retirement, the retirement benefits shall be paid to the beneficiary under a will or the spouse and children of the deceased, or in the absence of a wife and child, to the recorded next of kin, or any person designated by him during his or her lifetime, or in the absence of such designation, to any person appointed by the probate registry as the administrator of the estate of the deceased. Provisions in the Pension Reform Act 2014, Sections 4 states that where an officer exempted under Section 51B of this section dies in service or in the course of duty, the Federal Government Pension Transitional Arrangements Directorate and the Federal Capital Territory Pension Transitional Arrangements Directorate shall cause to be paid en bloc his next of kin or designated survivors a gratuity and pension to which the officer would have been entitled at the date of his death, calculated in accordance with Section 46 of this Act. To access retirement benefits of a deceased employee, the next of kin is expected to liaise with the pension fund administrator of the deceased and provide relevant documents for the processing of terminal benefits, that is, payment of amounts due for service prior to June 2004 and payment of outstanding contributions and other balances into the retirement savings account. For deceased persons who do not open a retirement savings account before their death, the next of kin should approach any pension fund administrator of their choice to open a death benefit account through which such accrued pension rights and proceeds of life insurance policies would be paid. Such next of kin is expected to present the following documents to the pension fund administrator to open the death benefit account: medical certificate of death or cause of death, certificate of registration of death if available, police report if death is by accident, letter of administration or will submitted to probate, and declaration of wish or evidence of nomination of next of kin, and means of identification of next of kin, which could be driver's license, national ID, and or international passport. The next of kin shall thereafter forward the death benefit account number, name of pension fund administrator or pension fund custodian's bank account details to the deceased MDA or supervising authorities to facilitate remittance of proceeds of life insurance policy. All proceeds of life insurance policy must be paid into the retirement savings account of the deceased person or death benefit account opened by the next of kin. It should be noted that it is an offense under the Pension Reform Act 2014 for any organization or agency not to pay the proceeds of life insurance policy or its equivalent directly to the next of kin or beneficiaries, as there are strict sanctions and penalties for defaulters. This is all we have on pension education today. Thanks for watching.
Joining me on Up Close segment today is Mr. Ehimeme Ohioma, Head, Investment Supervision, Department of National Pension Commission. Mr. Ohioma, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Ehimeme, what informs the investment of pension fund in asset class or any other instrument?
In 2006, when investment activities started, the National Pension Commission developed regulations and guidelines on how these pension funds are to be invested. And we did that in collaboration with all stakeholders: the pension operators, the capital market operators, the financial regulators, CBN, SEC, DMO, and the rest. So it sets out the rules on how the funds are going to be invested in terms of the quality requirements, in terms of the maximum amounts or percentage of the portfolio, of each portfolio being managed by the pension funds that can be invested in the various asset classes. It also sets out, stringent, strict investment criteria. For example, pension funds cannot invest just in the open market. You can't just go and buy pension funds. It has to be on authorized trading platforms. And when I mean that, I mean trading platforms either registered or recognized by the Securities and Exchange Commission or the Central Bank of Nigeria. So that's regulation, the investment regulation sets out the mode and the minimum criteria for which the pension funds need to follow.
Great. I'm happy with this answer, but haven't told me the guidelines and the measures given by the National Pension Commission as the regulator on investment of pension contribution. I want to find out if pension contribution can be invested outside the country, that is offshore.
The Pension Reform Act 2014 allows for pension funds to be invested outside the country. Yes, but it has to be done based on approval by the President, Mr. President. So that's what the Act says. But we are yet to develop guidelines for offshore investment by the pension funds.
Interesting. Mr. Ihememe, the trend now is that investment of pension fund in infrastructure. So can you tell us, in what infrastructure can pension fund be invested? Because the news making around the city now in this country that pension fund can be invested in infrastructure, and I mean people who have some infrastructural developmental projects look up to accessing money from pension fund, the CPS. So what type of infrastructure can the pension fund be allowed to invest on?
Yeah, I said it earlier, the regulation and investment of pension fund assets sets out clearly the rules and how pension funds can be invested in any asset class, including infrastructure. And it's worthwhile to say that in the year 2010, the Commission introduced infrastructure as one of the allowable asset classes. And but since then, we've not had a lot of investments in that asset class because the pension funds cannot be the investor and as well as the issuer of the instrument. So we expect we've been waiting for the markets to develop those products, you know, for pension funds to invest in. But it's been kind of like slow.
Mr. Ihememe, if I can come in here, don't you think one of the reasons that is scaring these people is maybe the conditions are so stringent?
Well, we need to understand what are the objectives of pension fund investments. These are mandatory savings of people. So you must be very careful how you invest these funds. And what are the objectives? The objectives of pension fund investments are clearly stated in the Pension Reform Act 2014, as well as the investment regulation. Safety, safety, safety. Then fair returns. When I mean fair returns, I mean above inflation returns. So these are two major issues that the pension funds look at in investing in any instruments, including infrastructure. So we cannot compromise safety for returns. But at the same time, can we structure instruments that are safe and as well give those risk-adjusted returns for the pension funds to invest in? It's been done globally all over the world, so why can't we do that here?
I agree with you. Investment in infrastructure is just a long-term project, and I mean, recouping the investment is also a long-term project. We'll take a short break now, Mr. Ihememe. We'll come back to give us more on investment of pension contribution. Viewers, the program is Pension Matters, and I'm discussing with Mr. Ihememe Ohioma of National Pension Commission. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, he'll take us more into the investment of pension contribution. Don't go away.
Do you know there is a new pension scheme in Nigeria? It is mandatory, it is contributory, it is fully funded, based on individual retirement savings account. Under the supervision of the National Pensions Commission, the new pension scheme guarantees lifelong financial independence for every citizen of Nigeria in public or private employment. PENCOM says it's a new dawn. Call the National Pensions Commission now or log on to www.pencom.gov.ng for further details. PENCOM, your contribution counts.
Welcome back, and if you're just joining us, the program is Pension Matters, and it is our up-close segment, and today I'm discussing with Mr. Ihememe Ohioma. Mr. Ohioma, before the break, I was going to ask you, since 2010 that the window for investment of pension fund in infrastructure opened, can you tell us the volume of funds, of pension funds that have been invested in infrastructure?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that it's been slow. It's really insignificant, and that's why we are concerned, and that's why we've started engaging. We've been engaging the various stakeholders in the last 2 years. We looked at the first 10 years of the pension reform as an accumulation stage. to build the pension assets. So for the next 10 years, we're looking at actual deployment of those funds into critical investments, to develop a country, for the benefit of the country as well as the contributors. Thus far, it's roughly 3% that has been invested, 3% of the assets under management of close to 6 trillion.
That's really small.
Really, really small. And it's broken down into the state governments, because the state government bonds are classified as infrastructure investments, because for any state to issue any bond is to develop certain infrastructure and these are closely monitored by the Securities and Exchange Commission to ensure that the funds raised from the public are utilized for the purposes for which they were raised. So about 2.28% of pension assets have been invested in state government securities, which have been invested in infrastructure. We've not had any federal government sponsored bond, infrastructure bond. So that is a nil percent. Then there are investments in infrastructure funds as allowed by the regulation, and that's barely 0.02%.
Very poor.
Very, very low, but we expect to see a lot of activities from 2017. There's been a lot of engagements, and this is coming to fruition, to the final stages of execution and implementation. And in terms of real estate, in terms of actual infrastructure, roads, rail, and all the hardcore infrastructure. So we expect to see some gradual shift of pension assets into safe and well-structured instruments dedicated to financing infrastructure from 20.
Although, Mr. Ohioma, in answering my earlier questions to you, you've been able to stress the measures the National Pension Commission, as a regulatory body, what are doing to make sure that investment in infrastructure, how safe it could be and how safe it should be. But can you, for the purpose of our viewers out there who are thinking, what measures will this regulatory body be taking to make sure that the contribution of RSA holders with PFAs is kept safe? Can you stress the safety measures taken by the regulator, PENCOM, to make sure that investment in infrastructure is safe?
Okay, I'll just break it down. You can invest in infrastructure either through an infrastructure bond or an infrastructure fund. And both instruments must be approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Good.
That is one angle to it. The people behind the fund managers must also be registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. If a bond is being issued, an infrastructure bond, that bond must be rated. It must have minimum investment grade rating. It must be listed on a registered Securities and Exchange Commission exchange.
Yes.
What that means is there's a whole lot of regulation over that instrument, and even over the fund managers. So once you have that in place, to a great extent, that shows some level of safety. For it also to be listed, it also shows tradability. So you can easily buy and sell of that security. For an infrastructure bond, that bond must have minimum investment grade rating.
Really?
Done by a rating agency recognized or registered by the Securities and Exchange Commission.
How often is this rating done?
The rating is done over the period of the security, but there are annual reviews.
Okay.
the rating agency will look at the projects and the instruments and other market conditions and provide an annual review of that rating, And secondly, the rating must be listed on a securities exchange. That enables that instrument to be freely bought and sold.
Okay.
So it ensures tradability. Then for the infrastructure fund, like I said earlier, must be registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. The fund managers, the people behind the fund, managing that fund, must also be registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And we have put also that the fund managers need to put their own monies also into the fund.
Exactly.
Because it's called skin in the game. They must have their skin in the game so that, if your money is in there, you know how to manage it better than,
Exactly.
And there must be an advisory board of that infrastructure fund, which the institutional investors have to be members of.
Oh, really?
Yes, to provide audits or overview.
Just like having their eye there.
Yes, to ensure that the fund manager doesn't veer off what the fund has stated it will do in terms of investment strategy and all that.
Oh, that's
and the
interesting.
projects. So the investment regulation is very detailed, and the requirements stringent to ensure safety of the pension fund assets. I want to stress the Commission is very, very independent. There are concerns about the public of, the government, trying to influence the actions of, and I will give that to the government. Since the inception of the Pension Commission, the government has never, apart from appointing the executive members, has never interfered in the running of the commission. And if you look at the board composition with Labour being represented and other stakeholders,
yes.
I think it should give confidence to the country.
I completely agree with you with that. Mr. Hemebe, finally, so recession, people are talking about recession. So how is it impacting on the pension contribution?
Well, we all know when periods of recession, jobs are being lost.
Exactly.
And the financial markets are also affected. So in terms of contributions, when jobs are being lost, that shows it also affects contributions because contributions are made from salaries.
Exactly.
So to some extent, that is affecting the pension contributions. And also on the other hand, a lot of people are losing jobs, and the Pension Reform Act 2014 provides for people to access 25% of their RSA balance
when they lose their job.
Yes, 4 months after losing their jobs. So there's an outflow also in that aspect. To ensure that people leave, are able to sustain themselves until they get another job. So it's two ways. And in terms of the assets itself, we've seen a depreciation in the Nigerian Stock Exchange, but we believe pension funds are long-term investments. So these are temporary, volatilities, which over time will smoothen out because it's long-term investments. So I think people should keep their minds at peace that, it's
nothing will happen to their contribution.
Yes, yeah.
Their contribution counts and is very safe.
Yeah.
Mr. Hemebe, I must thank you so very much for coming on the program today. I hope when next I call you, you oblige me to show on the program.
I'm always obliged. Thanks.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Viewers, the program is Pension Matters, and I've been discussing with Mr. Ehimeme Ohioma, Head, Investment Supervision, Department of National Pension Commission. He has been able to throw more light on investment of pension contribution in infrastructure. Not only that, he told us what recession is doing to pension contribution and pension fund. That, well, your contribution is safe, like he said, and your contribution counts. That what PenCom keep telling us. My name is Precious Rabi Ibrahim, and on that note, we'll wrap up the program today. Don't forget to tune in next week for another exciting and educative episode of Pension Matters. Until then, I want you to enjoy your weekend and remain blessed.